Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, to all sages and saints of this world, and to all of you divine souls watching this satsang. Today we will be studying the second part of Sutra number 17 of Samadhi Pad from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, narrated by Swami Nikhilananda, myself, and commentary from Swami Jyotirmayananda, my worshipful Guruji. So the sutra is, we had discussed this yesterday, we'll repeat it again. It's called Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Anugamat Sampragyataha. Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Anugat Asampragyataha. So we had covered this shloka about the initial stages of lower samadhi yesterday. Today we are going to discuss those kinds of superconscious states, lower superconscious states, and they are called Vitarka Samadhi. And then the second one is called Vichara Samadhi. The third one is Sanand, and the fourth one is Sasmita. And we'll cover each of these shortly. Vitarka Samadhi, it means it pertains to the first level of plane where we are focusing on the object of meditation, whether it's your favorite deity or a flower or whatever. That is perceptible by the senses in the gross plane. So you will think of something that your senses can imagine. That is the very first stage. This Samadhi gives rise to an intuitive experience which is quite unique, totally unique and different from the object, and therefore which an experience which has not been seen, heard or inferred before, which is Vitarka Samadhi, is also of two types. Tark means logic or argument. So the first one is called Savitarka, and the second one is called Nirvitarka. So Savitarka means where there is a word which is called Shabd, form which is called the Arth of that Shabd, which means the meaning, and then the third one is Jnana, or the idea of the object of meditation, where all these three things are jumbled up in the initial stages, and therefore one is confused. That's why you need logic or argument. That's why it's called Vitarka Samadhi. In gross perceptions, the qualities of Rajas and Tamas bring about misconceptions and perversions, because we have totally not purified ourselves yet. There is still some Rajas and Tamas which creates confusion. That is why one is not able to distinguish between the word, the form, and the object referred to the word, and the idea of the object. For example, when a man says, for example, they use the word cow, he does not think seriously that this word is merely a combination of letters of C-O-W. So that's cow. But when spoken, the word tongue resides on the tongue. We naturally speak it, right? So the form of the object cow is signified by the word which is different from the word itself. So the form is now different. You think of cow, but you're speaking the word and it resides, and then the idea of what a cow is an actual cow that resides in the barn. So the idea of these three components to be separated and then to come together is where this Savitarka Samadhi is in the initial stages. So in the gross perception, there is a mixture of word, form and idea. That's the point of using that word analogy of the cow, that you are thinking of the word itself, then the idea of what a cow is. Somebody who has not seen a cow, the word cow, meaningless it becomes to him, because he cannot relate to what it means. So therefore we have a form in our mind before we put the word together. That's what the meaning of that whole Savitarka Samadhi is. So Nirvitarka Samadhi, on the other hand, is the next level where there is no confusion about Shabd, Arth and Gyan, which means there is no confusion about the word itself, the meaning of the word, and the knowledge. So you look at a cow and you say, oh, well, that's a cow, I know, and you know it, you see it, and therefore there is no confusion of the word, action, and thought, and so on. So that's what Savitarka Samadhi is. When you are focusing on the object, slowly you are dissecting those things. The second one is called Vichara Samadhi. At this level, there is no physical object, but more of thoughts. At the gross state, the object is experienced in Samadhi. The light of intellect grows brighter. So you are now advancing, in other words. So Savitark was the first stage, and after you have perfected that, you graduate to the next class called Vichara Samadhi. So from the very same gross object, there emerges the penetrative vision. So you, for example, you thought of the cow. So now what you're doing is, and you are not doing it, just your sincere effort, and it happens through your effort and God's grace. You start to advance in those samadhi levels. You start to see the tanmatras, or the subtle bhutas that created the cow. See, we are all made up of these 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So these are the 5 elements at that next level, where you can actually the form goes away, but you are now going through to those tanmatras or elements, and you're able to visualize those without a form, to see how that would eventually come together and make that cow. We are made the same way. Actually, we are all made up of these subtle elements. So like I said, this is complex stuff, but hang in there, keep digesting it, keep practicing it, ask me questions, and I'll try to guide you with what I can. And then believe me, they're talking about all these things because we know we can get there. Actually, sages and saints and any serious aspirant, many of them have actually done this. The gross object disappears, and in its place these subtle root elements appear. So that's what happens in Vichara Samadhi, which means we are just now at that point, we are able to close our eyes, and that's what sages and saints do. They can read the thoughts of people, and they can look at an element and know what its composition is at a form. So this is not a joke. We are dealing with a very deep science here. So some level of concentration, focus, study, discipline is obviously required. When the Indriyas, which are your organs of actions, tanmatras, are experienced without any misconception or imagination, then it's called Vichara Samadhi. You're able to dissect it as I just explained. And there also you have Savichar and Nirvichara Samadhi, 2 types. So in Savichar, you are within time and space. So you are able to see the 5 elements, but you are still within time and space. Whereas in Nirvichar, which means you are in the subtle plane, but you have lost awareness of time and space. That's what's called transcendental. You have transcended time and space in that at that level. And then the third kind of samadhi, which means now you have perfected the first stage and the second stage. So now you are going on the higher rungs of samadhi. The third one is called Sananda Samadhi. Sananda means this is basically, Anand means joy, bliss. With persistent practice on your vichara, so first you concentrate on the first one, which was vitarka, savitarka, nirvitarka, logic based. The second one is vichar based or thought based. Now the third one is all these thoughts and the forms also go away, but what happens is you start to experience peace and bliss. That's why when you see samadhi, all these yogis in meditative poses, they are some of them, the advanced ones, radiate that peace and happiness because they are experiencing it at that level. Your sattva is becoming even more purer. So as you continue to filter your tamas and rajas and continue to grow in your sattva, you continue to make progress in your samadhi as well. That is the exercise. The ahankara then reveals itself. Ahankara is your ego principle, and when it reveals itself, it gives you all that joy because it's very close to the actual self. So this ahankara is the source of the indriyas and tanmatras. So first you were focusing on the form, then you went into the tanmatras, and now you are focusing on the source itself that is creating these tanmatras and indriyas. So it's very important you understand that we are going from the gross to the subtle. So this is known as Ananda because it is full of joy, and Sattva is so high that you say, I am blissful, I feel blissful, and many yogis enjoy that state so much that it's hard to come out of it, but you have to. It's a long journey to go to. So therefore they experience astral world for a long time. Those people who pass away in that state and have not graduated to the next state of samadhi will continue in the astral field for a very long time. They get to enjoy this, but still this is not the end all. This is just a step on the journey. The fourth one is called Sasmita Samadhi, and this one is the experience of I am. You are totally blissful. It becomes more and more purified as your sattva increases. So this is the highest rung of your lower samadhi, all the initial sampragyat samadhi which we say. So all these four stages are part of this lower samadhi itself. So you can imagine Sasmita is extremely close to your consciousness or the self, and when you reach that point, you have touched the source from where all the everything that is generated, whether it's the tanmatras or the physical senses or the panchabhutas, even the ego, all that is coming from that. So it's the cause of the ego principle or ahankara tattva. And that also, if somebody passes in that state, a lot of people actually begin to think at this stage that they have attained self-realization. But Patanjali says that is a big mistake that people make, because there are still more steps to pursue. They are not self-realized, they are just thinking, and they are misled by the joy that they are experiencing. See, so this is a very deep science, and many people who follow this seriously have attained it. So humble prostrations to Patanjali Maharaj and all these sages and saints who have preserved this deep knowledge for us. So we have covered the lower samadhi, which was a very big part of this process, and now the experiences in trying to get there, right? So this is the knowledge, like looking at a map. Now when you actually execute that journey that you're going, a map becomes very small and your journey becomes very time consuming, and you have to put in a lot of effort and travel plans and so on. Same thing here. But be firm, be dedicated, and slowly you will continue to enjoy this journey as well as make spiritual progress. So tomorrow we will study Sutra number 18. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, clarifications, feel free to contact me or ask me questions. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Om Tat Sat.